Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and before we get started with this video, please like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and join the Discord. I'll have all of those linked down in the description of this video. But today's video is going to be the video that I do every month, obviously, which is the election prediction, the 2020 presidential election prediction for Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Obviously, Joe Biden is all but the nominee now. He's probably not going to officially get it for a while because obviously a lot of these primaries have been delayed or postponed. While we do have some coming up, we have Wisconsin coming up on April 7th, which I will have my prediction for coming out soon. But as for this, Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. Obviously, there's basically no chance Bernie Sanders get it, but we are going to do the election prediction for Joe Biden versus Donald Trump as it stands right now in April of 2020. This is when I'm doing this video. So as always, I will fill out the safe states for Donald Trump, and then I'll fill out the safe states for Joe Biden. But for Donald Trump, we will do Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and all of Nebraska except for the 2nd District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and South Carolina. So that is going to be 125 safe electoral votes for Donald Trump. And then for Joe Biden, we have California, Oregon, even though there's Antifa voters, and obviously a lot of it's a left-wing electorate in Oregon, Joe Biden is going to win by a safe margin. Washington by a safe margin, as well as Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Vermont, as well as Maine's 1st District, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and D.C. So that is going to be 183 safe electoral votes for Joe Biden and 125 safe electoral votes for Donald Trump. Now you'll do the likely and tilt states. Obviously, likely is 5 to 10. Safe, as we saw, is above 10. Lean is 2 to 5, and tilt is less than 2 points. So if it is 1.5, then it is a tilt margin. 2.5, it's a lean margin, and so forth, so on and so forth. So you'll start on the East Coast. I think that the state of New Hampshire is going to be a tilt blue Dem state. Obviously, it was one of the closest seats in 2016, but obviously you saw that a Senate seat flipped blue, a House seat flipped blue, and the governorship did flip red, but they talk about it being a very bad year for Democrats overall, but the polls haven't been too bad for Joe Biden. And despite the fact that he didn't do very well here in the primary, I feel like he's going to get over the top just because he can't really do much worse than Hillary Clinton did. As well as Maine at large, I think he's going to win by a likely margin, but Maine's 2nd District, he'll win by a likely margin. Maine's 2nd District will be by around 6 points, 6, 7 points, and Maine at large will be by around 8 points just due to the fact that Maine's 1st District is going to be by such a large margin. But yes, that is Maine's at large is likely Dem, and Maine's 2nd is likely R. So going down to Virginia here, we'll get to the Rust Belt later, but Virginia is going to be likely blue. There's really not much that can change this. Virginia, the Nova counties, the establishment Democrats are pushing Democrats over the top as they first did in 2008, and they did it in 2012 and 2016, not just because Tim Kaine was the nominee. This state is trending blue amongst some other states that we'll talk about later, but this state is very different than it was originally when it were Republican, and because of that, it is going to go by a likely margin towards Joe Biden. But from the state of North Carolina, Donald Trump is going to win the state of North Carolina by a lean margin. He won it by about 5 points in 2016, but people forget that Roy Cooper flipped the governorship in a year that Democrats didn't do very well overall, which shows you that Democrats do have the ability to win in this state. Obviously, some polls have showed it to be very close, some being internal polls, some just being polls that have showed Joe Biden winning, and he is winning as much in North Carolina as he is in states like Wisconsin and states like Pennsylvania. That's going to be something we're going to have to watch out for, but as it gets closer to the election, I see it's kind of splitting up a bit, similar to what it did in 2016, but Donald Trump winning by a lesser margin, probably around 3 to 4 points from the state of North Carolina, getting its 15 electoral votes. Same thing with Georgia. Georgia is also going to be a lean margin state. Obviously, we had a poll came out today, an internal Republican poll that showed Donald Trump only beating Joe Biden by 2 points, which would put it very close to even the tilt margin here. And that's a GOP internal poll, meaning it's skewed to the Republicans, obviously. But some other polls have had it showing it around 7 points in favor of Donald Trump. So it's skewed a lot. But as we get close to the election, we might see that it gets a bit closer. a bit further out. We'll just have to wait and see, but I do see that it goes by around 4 to 5 points, a bit larger margin than what the governorship race was last year, but still the signs of a trending blue state. Going on to the state of Florida here, Florida is going to be a tilt margin state. I don't really think there's much escaping this. Florida is going to be safe regardless of who it is, and despite the fact that people always say, oh, it hasn't gone to a non-incumbent since 1924, well, people also forget that only 2 presidents have ever lost states in their re-election campaign and then still won. That was Woodrow Wilson and Barack Obama. So most states always go to the incumbent historically. That pretty much always happens. So to say that Florida, it's not going to buck the trend of going to incumbents, I disagree with that. I think this state will be very close, but I do think at the end of it, that Ron DeSantis being popular, it could be affected by the coronavirus, but him being popular is going to push Donald Trump over the top, probably by a margin of around just under 1 point, similar to the margin in Wisconsin last time. But yeah, we'll go to the Sun Belt now. I think Texas is going to be a likely margin. Some polls just showed it closer. Some polls have even showed Biden winning, but I don't think that's how it's going to turn out. I think it'll be about 7.6 to 7 points in favor of Donald Trump. It could be a bit closer. I don't see it being much larger of a margin than that. It is a trending state, whether you like it or not. You see the trends are active here. We saw the Senate race was very close. We saw an 8-point swing from 2012 to 2016, despite the fact Hillary Clinton did worse pretty much everywhere else, except for states like Georgia, which we'll talk about, and states like Arizona, which we will talk about. But Texas is going to trend a little bit, probably by around 2 to 3 points in terms of the presidential numbers, but it will still be a likely margin for Donald Trump. New Mexico will be a likely margin. Colorado will be a likely margin. Both states have trended blue here. We see that they're very different states from when George Bush won New Mexico in 2004 and won Colorado in 2004. These states are very different from back then. They've trended blue, and despite the fact that obviously Cory Gardner won here in 2014 shows the Republicans had the ability to win here, I think that obviously, in 2016, the polls underestimated both Hillary Clinton in both states, Colorado and New Mexico. She won by more than what the polls said. And despite the fact that in New Mexico you won of the third-party vote, I think that won't matter too much, and Hillary Clinton will get a lot of those votes anyway. Joe Biden will get a lot of those votes anyway, and Joe Biden will end up winning both of these states by a likely margin. From the state of Arizona, it is going to be a tilt margin to Donald Trump. This state is trending, whether you like it or not. Again, this is one of the few states that trended blue from 2012 to 2016, despite the fact that Hillary Clinton did very bad overall. Mitt Romney won this state by more than John McCain did, and then Hillary Clinton only lost the state by 3.5 points. Joe Biden is going to be able to make it closer, especially with Mark Kelly running on the ticket against Martha McSally, who already lost an election. And despite the fact that I do think it is, at this point, going to stay with Donald Trump, I don't think it's going to be a wide margin. It's probably going to be by around half a percentage point. And this is the new battleground state here that we haven't really seen in a long time since Bill Clinton won in 1996. And it's going to be something to watch out for. It could be closer. Obviously, Joe Biden is actually doing very well in the polls here. But I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump is still going to pull off a victory here. From the state of Nevada, Nevada is going to go to lean to Donald Trump. Dean Heller didn't do very well here. Donald Trump didn't do very well here. Despite the fact he was leading in the polls, he ended up losing the state. The polling is actually skewed to the Republican column in Nevada for some reason. I guess it's the late deciding voters, and people have been saying that Joe Biden would choose Catherine Cortez Masto, who is the senator from Nevada, and while I'm not factoring that into this decision, that would probably make it even a safe state. Something that we're going to have to watch out for. But at this point, I would still put Nevada in the lean margin for Joe Biden because it is a Democratic state. Republicans haven't really had it for a while, so I wouldn't say that it has much of a chance of flipping. Nebraska's 2nd district is going to be a tilt margin. It's going to be closer than a lot of people say. It only went by around 3 points, I think, last time in 2016. And I don't think that Donald Trump is going to do as well here as he did in 2016. And Democrats probably would have flipped this district if they hadn't run a Bernie bro in 2018, but they didn't flip it in 2018, but there's a chance they could flip it this time, which will prove to be very important once we look at the rest of this map, once I predict the rest of this map. Obviously, Iowa, I think, is going to be a likely margin, and Ohio, I think, is also going to be a likely margin. I think these both will be less margins than what they were in 2016. I think Iowa will be right around 7. Ohio will be right around 5 to 6. These states are trending red. There's no denying that. These states could be closer, but I don't really see there's much chance of them flipping. I could put Ohio in the lean margin, but these states are just trending heavily to the Republican column at this point. Next, we'll go to the state of Minnesota. Minnesota is going to go by a lean margin. I haven't really seen if Donald Trump does have some rallies here, assuming this this virus ends. If Donald Trump does have some rallies here, it could change the story, but I don't really see there's much reason for him to campaign here. He should focus more on just keeping the states that he already won. He only lost it by around 1.5 points, but we saw that even in the special election in 2018, the Republican candidate lost by 10 points to Tina Smith, and that was in an open special election too. So it's not a state that has been very friendly to Republicans recently. It's obviously a state that the only state that Walter Mondale won in 1984, meaning that this is the last state on the map that went Republican because it hasn't gone Republican since 1980. And that's something that we'll have to watch out for because the fact that is that I don't think Donald Trump's going to be able to do very well in the state of Minnesota, but it'll end up going by a lean margin, probably around a similar margin, maybe 1 point more, 1 or 2 points more than last time. But Joe Biden is going to win the state by a lean margin. Next, we'll get to these final states here. I'm just going to do all three of them at once. I think Michigan is tilt Democrat, and Wisconsin is tilt Republican, and Pennsylvania is tilt Democrat. I would say at this point, Michigan is looking very likely for Joe Biden. Obviously, he's doing very well in the polls here. It is a traditionally blue state. Gretchen Whitmer won in the open election by 10 points, despite even though it was a wave year, obviously, she still did win by 10 points. Joe Biden is likely going to pick someone from the Rust Belt as his VP nominee unless he picks Cortez Masto or Stacey Abrams, which I don't really see happening. And this is a traditionally blue state that I think that it's similar to Indiana in 2012, obviously not to the same effect. You could see that it trends blue in the same way that it did from Indiana from 2008 to 2012. And obviously, like I just said, it'll be to a lesser effect, but it still will happen. Michigan will go by around 1.5 to 2 points, I think, to Joe Biden. I think that's a very likely scenario. As for Pennsylvania, we saw Tom Wolf won here, a popular governor, won by 17 points. Joe Biden technically was born in the state, and he is doing very well in the polls here, as better even than Hillary Clinton did. And obviously, elections aren't decided in April, but this is going to prove well for him, especially if he picks someone from the Rust Belt. He still has at least some of that appeal of being, middle class Joe, Amtrak Joe. He was geographically near the state of Pennsylvania, and that is going to help him out. But with the state of Wisconsin, they say that is going to push Donald Trump over the head with a margin of 270 to 268. We saw that in 2018, even with a Democratic wave year, Tony Evers only beat Scott Walker by 1.1 percentage points. And obviously, there's other factors to that. But Wisconsin is not demographically friendly to the Democrats in the same way that you could argue Michigan and Pennsylvania could be. So this is going to be a safe state. It's probably a close state. It's going to be one of the closest states of the night. But at the end of the day, I think I would say at this point that it is going to go to the Republican column. Donald Trump will pull off this state. He's doing better in the polls here than he is in any of the other Rust Belt states. It is going to be a closer state. It was the last state people saw flipping in 2016 of these Rust Belt states, but it did flip. And I think that at this point, I would say it narrowly stays in the Democratic column. But you could see, as I was talking about the importance in Nebraska's 2nd district before, say that Joe Biden narrowly flips Nebraska's 2nd district, you're now at a 269-269 tie, which would then send the presidency to the House of Representatives and the vice presidency to the Senate, which would be, it would be politically fracturing for the country, and it would just be completely it would be a historic moment. But at this point, I would put Donald Trump at 270 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 268 electoral votes. That will go re-elect Donald Trump as President of the United States, and then he is going to win. But obviously, a lot of these could change. I could even see Joe Biden flipping Wisconsin, flipping Arizona. That could be something that happened. And then, Donald Trump could even win Pennsylvania and maybe even Michigan. But yeah, we'll have to see how this all turns out. This is very preliminary, but this is how I would put my prediction right now. Donald Trump 270, Joe Biden 268. Donald Trump is reelected as President of the United States. But yeah, thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe as always. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, and I will see you guys later.